1. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Multiverse Show, the greatest show on Mondays, back for season 5, renewed again by some sort of strange occurrence. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got a real knockout show for you guys lined up. Play a little bit of catch up, little things here and there we want to discuss. But first stuff on the docket, we have to do our introduction. And as this is a new season, we'll be doing the long form introductions. First up, we have the Caesar of cinema, the Baron of Britain, the red-headed wonder, Mr. James Wilson.
That's a new one. Hello, everyone. As introduced, my name is James Sterling Wilson. I am a human. Been put on this planet for about 24 and a bit years now. I like a bunch of stuff. I like video games. I like really narrative-heavy stuff sometimes. But then again, I also like stuff that's incredibly obtuse and doesn't tell you anything except if you read the item descriptions and then you discover you're in a Lovecraftian horror. Yes, I have played Bloodborne. Stop asking me that. I love films, as mentioned in my name, the Caesar of Cinema. I like all films, and I mean that. I like just about every kind of film. The only films I don't like are films I don't like. I'm equal opportunity, mean and nice. You know what? If you don't know me, I record these shows from London, and it's 1 a.m. here. So if I'm rambling and you understand anything of what I say, that is a success. So that's about it from me.
All right. And 3 introductory questions. First off, what is your current favorite game?
The game I'm playing the most right now is Apex Legends. I'm loving the new map. It's a great game to just wake up to, great game to go to sleep to. It's just a great game in general.
All right. And what's your favorite drink? You can do non-alcoholic or alcoholic, up to you, or both. Who knows?
I love a great smoothie, but here's my absolute favorite drink it's a very specific drink. It's at this place called the Loading Bar, which is a video game pub that I frequent a lot in Dalston, in an area in London. It's quite trendy. I'm quite cool. And they have a lot of gaming themed cocktails. Like they have the Assassin's Mead, they have the Destiny, they have Alien Inebriation, they have, Pokemon Slow Gin. But the absolute creme de la creme is the Deus Ex on the beach. It is a beautiful, fantastic drink that I absolutely love, and that is my favorite drink.
All right. And if you were a music genre, what would you be?
I would love to say I'm super cool, and it would end up being like alternative rock of the late 90s, circa Radiohead, Muse, and that kind of era. But I know that in my heart of hearts, I'm barbershop. I'm just cool enough that if you hear it, everyone will be like, oh yeah, I get it. But only the hardcores will really understand it.
Mm-hmm. All right. And next off, we have the man with the megaphone, the Dawn of Deletion, back from the clutches of COVID-19, Mr. Mike P. to Truth.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Mike. I survived the Rona, and all I got was this lousy. Actually, I didn't even get a lousy T-shirt. But anyway, it is great to be back on the Multiverse Show. I apologize if I sound a little bit raspy, but it is great to be back. We have another great docket of topics for you guys tonight. As the old curmudgeon of the Multiverse Show, I would be remiss if I didn't say that I've been playing video games longer than a lot of you guys have been alive. So there's that.
All right. And the question we have to ask you, what is your current favorite game?
So current favorite game. I have been playing a ton of Black Ops Cold War recently. I'm actually really having a lot of fun with it. This is the most fun I've had playing Call of Duty in years. Modern Warfare 2019, I enjoyed that for the most part, but there were some issues with it. I've just really been genuinely having a good time playing Call of Duty this year, which I haven't been able to say for quite some time.
All right. And favorite drink?
So favorite drink, I am a fan of bourbon. If you were to ask me what my favorite bourbon is, as far as drinking neat, I would have to say Buffalo Trace, I think is a really excellent bourbon, especially for the price. In cocktails, I like bullet bourbon. I think that like bitey, a little bit of a rye, peppery note goes really well in cocktails. As far as unexpected drinks that I like, I don't know if any of you guys have tried it, but there's a type of whiskey that's called Screwball, is the brand. It's peanut butter whiskey, and
Yeah.
I know that probably sounds disgusting, but you got to take my word for it. It is delicious. It is really unexpectedly good. So that's my favorite drink. Big whiskey fan, specifically bourbon.
All right. And if you were a music genre, what would you be?
As much as I'm embarrassed to admit this, but when I was in like eighth grade, like high school time frame, I was a huge fan of Limp Bizkit. So I'm gonna go with new metal.
Oh Lord. Boy. All right. So next
Yeah.
off, we have White Wolf himself, the writer extraordinaire, straight from Windows Central in iMore, Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey, we are back for another season, my bros. Yes, my name is Samuel Talbert, and as Ivan so said, I am a writer over at Windows Central and its sister sites. I'm more at Android Central. Currently freelance, but crossing my fingers that this is the last year I'm freelance. We'll see how that goes. I'll update you when there's something to update. And then moving on from that, yeah, I just enjoy a wide range of games, but specifically, as of these days, Western RPGs and first-person shooters with some immersive sims thrown in. That's where I tend to focus a lot of my stuff. Platinum Demon Souls, played a ton of stuff over the holidays. Now I'm back and recharged for 2021.
All right. And your questions for the evening. What is your current favorite game?
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't sure exactly how you phrase this. My current favorite game in terms of most recent is Ori and the Will of the Wisp from Moon Studios and Xbox. But my favorite game of all time is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
And current favorite drink?
So my favorite drink, while I am, much like Mike, a big whiskey fan, big bourbon fan, Screwball is the truth. Mike is telling the truth on that. You got to try it. I back him up 100%. At the end of the day, my favorite alcoholic drink is a classic rum and coke. You can't beat simplicity. You just can't. My favorite non-alcoholic drink is my first cup of coffee in the morning.
All right. And if you were a music genre, what would you be?
There's a few different ones that you can kind of shoehorn in and fit, and find some similarity. But I think overall, my tones in life right now, I would probably be Viking metal. A lot of classic stuff in there, but experiencing a resurgence, so to speak.
All right. Fair enough. My name's Ivan Seiler, also known as Anchorman V2. What's there to say? Used to do YouTube, now I'm back. I've been around the place quite a bit. Just this is more things. This is the show I like to do with my friends, and we've been doing this for almost 4 or 5 years now. So we've been doing this for a good long while, and I just enjoy doing it. You find me on Twitter, AnchormanV2, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. Moving on, at least a little bit in terms of questions. For me, current favorite video game, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered. Really enjoy that. Like, it's just a perfect experience. Very relaxed, enjoyable. Love it. Great time. In terms of favorite drink, non-alcoholic, there's like a tea I really enjoy. It's called Constant Comet tea. It's fairly cheap, but I've always enjoyed it. It's like a black tea with like spiced mandarin oranges. They've been dried up and put in the bag. It's perfect. I really enjoy that a lot. And alcoholic, so Sam knows this, and I know a couple other guys do. I like making cocktails for certain games. Cyberpunk 2077 brought one to my attention, and the Johnny Silverhand is like my current like favorite alcoholic drink. It's great. Um, it's
It's good.
basically
It's good.
tequila, um, cerveza, or just Mexican beer is always good. I just top that and then do like a sprinkle of like chili powder. perfect. It's so good. I love drinking it. I was very surprised when I first heard it. Before that, it used to be the Moscow Mule. That used to be my favorite, but this this one has kind of blown that one out of the water. I just enjoy this a lot right now. So, and if I were a music genre, I'd probably be ska. Dirty, but a little complex sometimes. So, all right, so let's get started with the evening in particular. Since you guys interpreted the current favorite game as the current like a recent game you're playing that you enjoy, we won't do the "What have you guys been playing lately" segment. But first, we're gonna go off into movie corner. James, what's been going on in the world of media?
I would like to do something I have been playing, actually, because I said in the chat that I have a game that I want to talk about, and it is a game that I have been playing. I finished earlier today, in fact. Now, has anybody heard of a game studio called Hello Games?
Yes,
Indeed.
Once or twice.
Yes, we all have. The most known for the developers, but I missed this when it came out back in September, August. They released a little indie platformer puzzle game called The Last Campfire. I was aware that it came out. I didn't play it at the time because of just the world, and worried about if I was going to make next week, let alone worry about playing a new platformer. But I had some time, and I found £8. It was on the PlayStation Store yesterday, so I picked it up, started playing it, and it's delightful. What a lovely, lovely game. It is very little story to it. It's very, very much like a brilliant indie game that would be made by a team of 7 people. You would play it at GDC, and then you would never hear about it again. But it has the backing of Hello Games behind it. So you play a character called Ember, or he is an Ember, and then you've got to solve puzzles to get the forlorns back to fill up all of the campfires. And there isn't really much more story than that. Well, there is a lot more story, but I really don't want to spoil it here because it's just delightful. Some of the maps and areas remind me of the little back rooms in Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's that kind of atmosphere, the music, the color scheme. It's very reminiscent of that. Also, we're big fans of Giant Sparrow and the work that they do. There is definitely elements of the Unfinished Swan in here, a bit of The Witness as well, but much less cerebral puzzles. I just think that there hasn't been a game like this that's really sort of taken aback, that has had me taken aback. It's 1:15. It's just a really good game. So yeah, The Last Campfire. It's the most fun you'll have with a game that is the same the whole way through. It's really lovely. There we go.
Gotcha. All right.
So we've got to talk about movies
corner.
now.
What's going
on? Not a lot. I think you'll know that most movie places are closed in the world. They're open in America. So the movie theaters are open in America. I am correct in saying that, right?
That's right.
Or is it mostly drive-ins?
They're open, but a lot of restrictions, and most people don't bother. So.
Yeah. So in the time that we've been away, the only really big release is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 1984. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on any of the things that have been said around it. I have read some interesting things. The reviews seem mixed. Is a safe way to play it. Has anyone seen it?
No, I thought we were gonna go see it at one point, but just never got around to it. We have HBO Max, just little interest.
Yeah, well,
I have not seen it.
We don't even have HBO Max as an option in this country, so figure that one out. It's nonsense. There's no real movies to talk about, but a couple days ago we had the first thing released from the MCU since.
Spider-Man?
Is it Spider-Man?
I think it is Spider-Man.
Yeah, from Spider-Man. Yep.
Jesus, there you go, lads. Since Spider-Man: Far From Home, we have the first piece of MCU, and it is WandaVision. And I'd say something, I'm in love. The first 2 episodes were released on Disney Plus, and I am loving it. It's so weird. For those of you who don't know what this is, WandaVision is the first of the MCU TV shows. There's a lot of them. The first 3 are going to be this, then the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, then the Loki show. Apparently, Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first show, which makes sense because you want to make it release the one that's most like the films, and that seems the one that's going to be most like a typical Marvel film. This is something entirely different. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil a film that came out in 2018 about Infinity War for a second. Vision's dead. Vision's quite dead. Wanda Maximoff, however, is not. And yet, they're in a 50s sitcom. It's all in black and white. And I don't really want to say more, but something is amiss. I don't know what it is, but I really want to know. WandaVision's fantastic, and I can't spoil anything. I can't even talk about what is happening tangentially. I imagine you guys have probably watched the first 2 episodes as well.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Danielle and I watched it 2 days ago, I think. We watched it 2 days ago, both episodes back to back. I know.
I mean, it says a lot. It says a lot that you have HBO Max all this time. You didn't even try watching Wonder Woman, and the MCU dropped something new, and you immediately watch it.
Oh yeah, like as soon as WandaVision came out, we were like, well, because there's so much stuff going on, and so for me, this is one of those random things. I used to specialize in Young Avengers and Exiles and those kind of weird little teams, and there's so many references to that kind of stuff in there. We are definitely not going to be talking spoilers. We'll do a spoiler cast at the end of the season. I think that'll be fair. We'll do something for that then. But yeah.
Can I say something real quick? I'll be very careful. I won't spoil anything. I similarly love it. I will say this being the first thing to have back in the MCU since Endgame and Spider-Man is whack. Like, it is absolutely whack in the best possible way. It doesn't make sense. It is not a spoiler to say that clearly something is wrong here, because none of this makes sense and none of this can be real. I will say, if you have seen older sitcoms, you are going to get an extra love out of this. Like, if you have seen stuff like Bewitched, or even better, I would say The Dick Van Dyke Show, then you will have an extra layer of appreciation for just what they are doing here. And if the ending of the second episode is any indication, I think that I know where they're going with this, and I cannot wait to see it through. It's fantastic.
Kevin Feige, I think, in a few interviews has said that they're going through multiple different decades and like genre types, but all within the sitcom format. So I am like foaming at the mouth for when they do an Office parody. I am convinced that they're going to do it, and I cannot wait for Paul Bettany, who, by the way, can I talk about Paul Bettany for a second? Paul goddamn Bettany for many years was just that guy who was the voice of Jarvis, and he's so funny. He is a brilliant comic actor because he's like really tall and he moves like he reminds me of John Cleese. And he's a person who just moves in an odd way. And the fact that he is playing someone who, doesn't eat and has to keep mentioning that, and then everyone looks at him and is like, yeah, you're crazy. And they all call him Vision. It's so weird. Yeah. I just really hope there's something at the end of this. I hope this isn't like an X-Files situation where something happens and then a dude comes by smoking and looking at a pool of goo, and we have to think, something is up with the pool of goo. I just want something to be at the end, but I trust everyone involved with this. That Marvel have never led us down a garden path without something at the end of it. Yeah. So this is great. Oh, we didn't talk about Soul.
Yep, we did not talk about Soul. We might as well. We're a fairly small topic list for you guys, but yeah, let's talk about Soul for a minute because that also happened over the break.
Yeah, I got to see this film months ago. I reviewed it on the show, and I remember saying that there's definitely going to be stuff that you guys want to talk about. Isn't it really mature? Not in like rude, but like really, really mature for like a kid's film.
It is. It's really mature. I'm not sure it's Pete Docter's best Pixar film, but it definitely is a more adult-oriented Pixar film in terms of just the subject matter itself. Like, I don't think even kids would like watching this movie.
I'm led to believe that they are. Weirdly enough, the person I really is Fame, but he's not here. But I'd be fascinated because he seemed very interested by the fact that it was just called Soul and what that meant as a black man in America. So I'm fascinated to see what he has to say about it, especially with his kids who might have watched it.
Yeah. All right. But we'll save that for when he gets back, just because that's such a.
And there's no other big reviews. The only other big that happened, I think it was yesterday or the day before, is the fact that HBO and Warner have announced that Justice League is no longer going to be a miniseries. It's now going to be a 4-hour movie. And sorry, that noise was my head hitting the table. And there it goes again. Oh God, I'm not going to watch it.
That's fair.
I can't be bothered. I refuse. I think. And there's a friend of mine who really loves like all the comics and reads all the stuff, and he's like, "Oh man, we're going to see Darkseid. I'm so excited." And me, someone who doesn't read the comics and only watches the movies, and I just think, why do I care about Darkseid? And they said, "Oh yeah, because of all this stuff that he's done in the comics." And I think, okay, that's great, but in this movie that you want me to watch, and you have to get me emotionally invested in, why do I care about anyone that's in here? The films have done nothing to make me care about these people. I have apathy towards all of them. And for that is the reason why I'm not watching this movie. I'm just done. If it gets stunning reviews, that is the only reason. If it's anything below like a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm not watching it. There we go. That is my news.
All right. So also we do every so often we'll do these little projects. Just kind of like more of an introductory show. You get an idea of what we normally do here. Every so often we'll do these little projects, and this time it was mine. We'll do some more throughout the course of the year. So over the break, I had tasked those who wish to participate with making their own Christmas Carol movie. They could cast whoever they want, but the main thing is I want to see how they would adapt this idea into a regular show, well, a movie of their own. They could go anywhere they wanted with it. That's entirely up to them. But this was more about how would you adapt it and where would you go with that audience, and just kind of rapid fire details. We're going to try to keep it as short as we can here because we do have some gaming topics we want to hit up. Sam, let's start with you first because James talked for a little bit. Let's start with you.
Okay. So do you want to give the rundown of like the rules or what we discussed prior, or like are we just diving in on it? Just go for it.
So again, the only rules we really had with it, if I recall correctly, was you could have you cast anybody you want, and you could go anywhere you want in terms of the adaptation.
Okay.
I think those are the only rules that we had. So.
Right. But other than that, it's go nuts. This is your take on A Christmas Carol.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So these guys are going to roll their eyes so hard here. This is A Christmas Carol, but it is set in the world of The Witcher. And you use the existing cast of The Witcher TV show because it's framed as like a 3-parter with Geralt hired to rid like an elderly rich man who has been, Ebenezer Scrooge, who in this is played by Ian McShane. And you were going there. It's going to be good. Okay. And he's a war hero. He's a war veteran in this. He wasn't a banker. And he's grumbling and complaining, and his best friend this time is Jacob Marley, who was killed in the war alongside him. That's the main thing I want to change here is I want to get into more like survivor's guilt themes and him shutting down away from society because he was lauded with riches and praise when he got back, but he stopped really caring about this stuff. So he hires Geralt to rid him of the specters that haunt him every Christmas. And so you have them intensify their lessons over the 3 nights. while this mystery of, okay, who placed this curse? Is it a curse? Is this something more natural? Is going on in the background.
Sly bastard, you found a way out.
Yeah, I did. I know.
You basically did the Doctor Who Christmas Carol, except not Doctor Who. You did it with Witcher.
But come on. Ian, tell me that Ian McShane as Ebenezer Scrooge wouldn't be entertaining.
That would be pretty cool. Not gonna lie. That's some rock solid casting ideas.
It sounds like the backstory to his character in Game of Thrones.
I like. Yeah, you know
be.
what? Honestly, that could. I can see that. I can see that, James.
All right, James. Between you and me, who gets to go next? We could roll for it, or you can take advantage.
I talked for a while, so you go. And I think mine actually might be quite long.
All right. Find a way to chop it down. All right. So here's mine. I want to do a straightforward adaptation, except I'm going to make it the most real thing ever. I will say right up front, my casting is whack. They're terrible. It's just who I personally would want to see in that. So first off, I was reading my notes off here. Ebenezer Scrooge, 50 years old. That's how old he's supposed to be in the book. That's never how they portray him at all in any adaptation, except I think the 2019 one. But anyway, so he's a moneylender. Father died when he was very young. His mother remarried and had another kid. His stepfather was a bastard. He got sent off to school, apprenticeship, met Marley. They started a business together. They were doing that for nearly 20 years. Personally, for the casting, I like, I always mispronounce his name, Ian Griffud. I always mispronounce his name.
Mr. Fantastic.
Yep.
Yep.
Either that or a more bankable star would be Russell Crowe or Andy Serkis. Leaning more towards Andy Serkis personally. Anyway, other than that, we scrap the so his nephew Fred is not his nephew, it's actually his half brother, but there's such a huge age difference between them. He's basically more like an uncle than a brother. 20-year age gap, played by Nicholas Hoult. That's what I would go with. Fred's wife, Bonnie Wright. That's who I decided to go with. Or Ginny. From Hogwarts or Harry Potter. Major difference, Bob Cratchit, not much to go off of. I'd say he's a war vet, some sort. Andrew Garfield for casting, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't super big on it. Confirmed Tiny Tim has tuberculosis. That's what I have listed there. Big change. Jacob Marley. This one, he dies by suicide on Christmas Eve. However, the main twist is that it's not ruled as a suicide, it's ruled as a homicide because there's like a poor homeless guy who discovers him, but then he kind of gets blamed for it because he was like 1850 England. They kind of just blame him for it. It's like, oh, you're the one who killed him, obviously. So because it was technically suicide, he's stuck in purgatory and he's doomed to walk the earth, but he can only interact with humans on the anniversary of his death, which is Christmas Eve. But time kind of works differently, and his memories are kind of messed up. Who I would cast, Christian Bale.
Okay.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Fezziwig, or like the guy who in the Ghost of Christmas Past sequence, who's like his old boss. He'd be like a poor manager who has a supply store, and like they make a big point of like the Christmas parties and stuff is paid out of his own pocket. Couldn't think of anybody off the top of my head. If Bob Hoskins were alive, I'd want him, but he's not. So the Scrooge love interest. The big thing is that she would come from poverty, and Scrooge is obsessed with giving her like this good life and saving money before they get married. So that gives him a little more motivation about why he's so obsessive about hoarding wealth. It's because he wants to build this nest egg up and then get married afterwards, but he gets obsessed with the building portion of it. And so with that one, he just out of his insecurity, he doesn't pull the trigger on it. But however, Bonnie Wright would also play the love interest. So they would have a tag team of sorts. So she would play the love interest and Fred's wife. So whenever he's older, he sees her as the proxy of that. So the sequence of Christmas Past is going to focus more on not just the main things of just showing what they're going to show him. So Christmas Past is represented by a woman, played as the same actress as his mother. Whoever plays Scrooge's mother is going to play the same actress. And during certain memories, the main thing is that her skin will freeze or melt based on what type of memory it is. So if it's a cold memory, in terms of like negative emotions, she gets her skin turns to ice. And if it's a warm memory, it comes glowing. Keira Knightley, figure nice cast for her. So they would go through the sequence, but they'd also show some of the Marley stuff too, and they would show that it was a suicide in particular, and so that adds extra ruffle to it. And so the main suicide change there for Marley, that gives Scrooge an extra reason why he hates the homeless and the poor so much, because he blames them for the death of Marley because he doesn't know that it's a suicide. Christmas Present, played by a giant. The face of the giant changes based on like whatever positive history figure there was around 1850. So it changes to represent the present moment of Christmas spirit and whatever. I'd also definitely have some stuff with they also have the kids, the ignorance and want kids. Last one I have here is Christmas Future would be represented by the skeleton of Christmas Present. So what would happen is the sequence would be at the end of Christmas Present's time, you see like the skin and stuff decay and wither away, and then it puts so it's just a giant skeleton, and it grabs a cloak of void and wraps itself in it and becomes the ghost of Christmas Future. That's all I got.
I like that. I like that, dude. That's good. Well thought out. Very well thought out.
Yeah. The idea would be taking the original thing and just punching it up a little bit more, give it extra oomph.
Okay, mine is very different from that. As you all know, I'm a big fan of professional wrestling. And so I've positioned this as basically the last hour of Monday Night Raw. So I had an hour to write this, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I had way longer than that, but I forgot about it until this evening.
I'm looking forward to hearing this now.
Here we go. Okay, so we advertise it. The Rock's going to come to the TLC pay-per-view, which is hosted in December.
Done. I'm sold. Let's do it. It's got The Rock in it. It's already being greenlit.
The Rock is the guy, but it's happening on WWE TV, on the TLC pay-per-view itself. But we advertise it as it's a redo of the This Is Your Life segment, the famous segment from Monday Night Raw in the 90s, the highest rated segment in Raw history in terms of viewership. However, as The Rock is coming into the ring, the Uso brothers, Jimmy and Jay, who have turned heel in real, this is true, they turn up and they just sort of come up behind either side and say, they warn him that you're going to be visited by three spirits before delivering stereo super kicks, knock The Rock cold. Now, anyone who watched WrestleMania this year will know that there is a thing called the Firefly Funhouse, where you can do basically whatever you want in a pre-recorded manner. So everything I'm saying is happening live to the audience, but obviously it's a pre-record. He wakes up in the outfit that he was wearing at his Survivor Series debut in 1996. His hair coiffed up, blue trails like the Macho Man Randy Savage would wear. He makes his way to the ring, and the crowd are chanting, "Die, Rocky, die, die, Rocky, die," because he was rejected by the fans in the past. Shawn Michaels appears using the de-aging technology that WWE have stolen from Disney. That's a separate screenplay. He's here in full HBK regalia and has a sit-down interview in the barber shop. And they keep making references to throwing people through windows. Shawn is jealous of The Rock, having the world at his feet, debuting at Survivor Series. He didn't have to destroy his best friend to gain main event status. All The Rock had to do was exist. Rock's listening, but he puts on a pair of sunglasses, throws Sean through the glass, and as the glass is smashing, Stone Cold music hits. Rock in the camera cut has changed to Hollywood Rock from like the late 90s, early 2000s. And while the crowd now love to hate him, they don't like fully respect him. You know, Stone Cold ends up cutting a promo saying, you know, you can pretend that you're a real actor, but at the end of the day, you're just a guy who got lucky being the second best wrestler of his generation, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said, and he gets cut off by that. The camera just sort of blacks out. Lights come back on. Rock's now on a red carpet. He's being interviewed by like an Obama impersonator. There's loads of celebrities around him. There's pictures of like, you know, there's a marquee and the poster says, you know, Jumanji 27, and he's still in it. He's being handed wheelbarrows full of cash. John Cena, who's playing the Ghost of Christmas Present, turns up and congrats Rock on being successful. Then asks him, you know, if he's happy. The Rock goes, "Yeah, I'm happy. Look at everything. Smell what the Rock." And John just goes, "Yeah, but are you happy?" And then says, I don't know, a few motivational quotes like all he does on his Twitter nowadays. The Rock pauses. He looks at what he built, and it all just falls away. He looks up at the ramp, and it's the Samoan dynasty. It's Haku, it's Sika, it's Rikishi, the Usos. All of his family are there, but he's not. He's the one who left, and that's what he left behind, like the true family. And at the head of the table is Roman Reigns. The Rock turns around, and he hears a bell. It's the gong of the Undertaker, who just turns into him, choke slams him. He lands, but he's no longer in like a wrestling ring or on a carpet. He's in the actual WWE Hall of Fame. And Virgil, and I'm not going to explain who Virgil is. The wrestling fans know who Virgil is. Virgil's working as a janitor. He's dusting the pictures of the inductees. He gets to the Rock, but it looks like that picture hasn't been dusted, you know, months, years. Yeah, some NXT wrestlers walk by, amazed. They looking at all the names. They think, "Oh, look, Stone Cold. Look, Hulk Hogan. Look, Vince McMahon." And then they get to The Rock, and they sort of like, "Who's this guy?" And then they just breeze past him. The Rock is furious at this. He doesn't get it. He breaks the fourth wall. He references Christmas Carol. He says something like, "There's supposed to be a message or a moral." He ends up cutting a whole promo about it. And then out of the ether, you just hear the voice of Paul Heyman saying that this is not a warning, Rock. This is a spoiler. And he turns around into a spear from Roman Reigns, who just looks at this man who idolized him, who carried a wrestling industry on his back, the broken on the ground. And Roman just looks at him and says, "I will see WrestleMania." And that's the end of that episode and that's the end of the TLC pay-per-view.
I am dead.
This is
Sam.
That is
We
incredible.
both lost. We both lost this one.
We both lost big time. We both lost big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, James won, and it's not even close.
Oh my god, that I never expected that. Especially from you. I did not see that coming at all. That is the best idea for a Christmas Carol. It needs to be made. It needs to be made. We will be pitching
I will
this.
say I want to throw out the big idea that I had that gave the inspiration for this, the TV show Glow, who as a joke create a Christmas Carol but in wrestling for one of the characters in Glow for their Las Vegas show. So watch Glow if you haven't, but that is the inspiration for where this came from.
Oh my god, man. Okay,
but it's like
crap.
it is tangentially related to Christmas Carol. It just happens to happen around Christmas. That's the only real connection. But that's all you need.
Oh Lord. Okay. So gaming news, because there's been some. I'm sorry. I don't think I can even talk about gaming news after that one.
How do you follow that up?
It's just We'll just breeze through these real quick because this just I can't even believe you came up with this still. I can't. What if I told you in my research for this, they actually made a sequel to Christmas Carol?
That doesn't surprise me in the
Someone
slightest.
actually wrote a sequel where Ebenezer Scrooge travels to the 1990s and finds the descendant of Bob Cratchit, who has himself become a curmudgeon, but he's like late 20s, early 30s. He's like a studio executive or something. And he has to teach him the true meaning of Christmas. They don't send the ghost, they just send Ebenezer Scrooge taken from 1850, catapulted to 1990. And this is treated like a serious sequel.
That sounds awful. That sounds terrible.
It really does.
I'll find it for you guys. It
You
is
know
terrible.
what would make that story better?
What?
Professional wrestlers.
Okay, so we'll go through some of this stuff. We'll get the boring one out of the way. Hogwarts Legacy or whatever got delayed to 2022.
It was probably gonna get delayed anyway.
Sure,
Uh,
but at least let
this is like a
dangle it in
good
front of me a
reason
little
for them
bit.
to have it.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, especially that second, third week of January where they just start delaying everything, and you know it's coming, but you don't know who's gonna get it.
I feel like 2021 in general is just going to be so volatile with gaming releases. Like, we don't know what's going to get delayed, when it's going to get delayed. I just feel like everything's kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is, Mike. It absolutely is. I wrote about this, not to self-promo, but to self-promo. And you're 100% correct. The fact is, people think that the majority of the delays due to COVID impacting development were last year. No. What you saw last year was games that were nearly done being delayed. This year is going to be worse. Yeah. This year is going to be way worse, which is why, as frustrating as it is, I respect them just going ahead and getting it out of the way and saying, whoops, we shouldn't have said 2021. Actually, we'll see you next year. Sorry about that. Like, it's frustrating because I'm really looking forward to that game, but also, I respect it.
Oh, before I forget to, I have to do a quick plug for Razer. If you guys are listening, I'm actually doing this from my Razer Kyra Pro headset. We were able to actually hook up the entire show after a little bit of troubleshooting before we started the show. So the new revised sound quality and ease of use is thanks to Razer in this case. Wanted to throw that out there before I forgot. It's really been helpful. But yeah, back to the topic of delays. Man, you were totally right. It is going to suck for some of the delays coming up. Like it, I think, like I said before, I'm okay. Like if everybody came out and just said, "Okay, we're delaying just because of blank," and you just got it out of the way now. But it's more of the waiting because you know more are coming, and some people are trying to salvage stuff, and especially after Cyberpunk, which was the golden boy for several years. Getting delayed a bunch last year and then coming out and not being in the condition it should have been. And just no one's going to take that risk again after such a high profile bomb like that, at least publicly speaking. As a sales thing,
one thing that really surprised. That was one thing that really surprised me too personally. Was the roadmap that CDPR came out with for Cyberpunk, that the next gen update's not till late 2021. I personally, I was surprised by that. I'm thinking we're going to get it between like April, June timeframe.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but like based on that, we're probably not looking until like October to December timeframe.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I will
and that's
say
another thing. I think a lot of developers probably want to avoid a Cyberpunk 2077 situation. They've probably seen how high profile that launch was and like, you know what? Let's make sure that's not us. Like bolt down, batten down the hatches, make sure every screw is in place.
And I feel bad for the people at CD Projekt Red. Let me make my point. I know that they're like saying all these things and then releasing the game. That is on them. They shouldn't have done it. They were pressured by crazy fans and business people and stuff that's way beyond our pay grade. That aside, I feel bad for the people who spend months and years of their life putting something together, and then they have to put it out knowing it's not ready, and like knowing the flack that they're going to get from it. I just think that's so demoralizing for a person. But at the end of the day, maybe this will be a story, or it'll be shorthand for if a game's played, you say to someone, "Hey, would you rather have a Cyberpunk or something perfect that was something that was perfect on debut?" Zelda.
My hope for Cyberpunk is that because I do have Cyberpunk, I have played it. I do think it plays well on the Series S, but I think there's more that they could do with it, obviously. But I'm hoping this kind of turns into, because I do consider it kind of a next gen game, even though it was cross gen. I'm hoping this kind of turns out in the long run, like what happened with No Man's Sky, where the game
Perfect
release,
example. I was thinking the same thing.
it was more or less a disaster, didn't live up to people's expectations. But over time, with No Man's Sky, Hello Games kept working on it. They were improving the visuals. They kept adding new content, expanding the online modes. And the game now is great, but it took them a few years to get there. I'm hoping that once we get into like late 2021, when this next gen update comes out to 2022, that's what this game ultimately becomes.
I have no
And
doubt that Cyberpunk ends up being one of the maybe not one of the best games ever. I haven't played it, I can't say, but probably one of the most highly respected games within its genre. I'm fully confident of that team that they're able to do that. I wish they would have done it sooner, but what's in the past is in the past.
Yeah. My hope is that, and I said this before, I think we're at this point now where if they want to salvage the reputation, specifically with gamers, because gamers do not forget stuff until something else pops up.
Mhm.
The last thing that was in their brain is the last thing they're going to remember, and they're going to remember this, and so they're going to have to do something to get people's uh, good graces back. And unfortunately, just giving an apology is really not enough. It just isn't anymore.
Right.
I think for them, they're either gonna have to do one of two things, and one of them they're gonna hate. I think the first expansion they do needs to be free, especially if you like have a copy, especially like a digital copy or something like that, and you say, "Hey, yeah, you had this, or you pre-ordered it, and you kept your pre-order. Hey, here, the expansion's free." Because there's gonna be at least one or two expansions, at least that. But I think the other thing too is that
Mhm.
this would be a good move too if they don't want to do that. Actually make it so you can make a new character and add a new backstory. Like if you play the board game for Cyberpunk, there's more than just three backgrounds. Like in the game is a Corpo, Nomad, and Street Kid. There's more than that in the game. Like there's Netrunner. There's a couple. Or what the other one is. The Cyber Jockey, I think, is the other one.
I'm
Soldier.
shocked. I am still shocked that Netrunner didn't make it into the game. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they
such
chose
an
the three
iconic
easiest
part.
ones, and I get it. But I think if they wanted to make a big push, because I haven't seen anybody do this in a long time, if at all. Um, it's make a brand new backstory, so you can play the entire game all over again with the next gen updates and all that stuff when it's complete, and it'd be a better experience, and you get something significantly new out of it with that background. And also when they introduce the online, that would get a little more um, options for it. But yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that little portion about the delays. Other big piece of news and also semi movie news. Indiana Jones game, Bethesda. Bethesda had announced last week that they have the now rights to make a Indiana Jones game, and they're handing it off to Machine
I just want to
Games.
I just want to quickly answer Sathius's question in the chat. He's asking, "What's up with the new Indiana Jones movie? Is Harrison Ford not going to be in it?" Though he is going to be in it. Harrison Ford is in the new Indy movie, but Steven Spielberg is not directing. That director is James Mangold, who did Logan and Le Mans 66 or Ford versus Ferrari. Just quickly go there.
Yep.
Ivan, take it away.
Yep. So with the Indiana Jones game, there have been other Indiana Jones games. They're just not They're not very frequent anymore.
There have been like 26.
Yeah. And
There
they're
have been
mostly
so
older
many.
games. There's like maybe 2 or 3 3D games I can think of.
Does anyone know what the last Indiana Jones game was for? Not what it was about. Do you know what platform it was for?
Wasn't it for the PS1?
I thought it was original
No.
Xbox.
I thought yeah, it was original Xbox, I thought.
No, it's later than that. It was for BlackBerry.
What?
Huh.
I am not kidding. No, I'm not. The last official Indiana Jones was a BlackBerry game.
Wow. Didn't know.
There you go.
All right. But yeah, so this is a pretty cool little get. And the part that's also interesting too is that Microsoft will be acquiring Bethesda later this year, which I think is the main reason why most people are talking about this. It's not so much the surprise. For me, I think it's a good fit. I mean, Machine Games has a good track record, and they know how to make a game about killing Nazis. So at least on that front, it'll be interesting. And they know how to do good level design, especially after working with Arcane on Young Blood. Like you could definitely see they know how to make a good like atmospheric environment. So I'm not surprised about that at all. I think it's a good fit. I think it's mostly just because of that Microsoft acquisition. People are really interested in this because that means that potentially speaking, this could be an exclusive game. I kind of want to get everyone's impressions on this before we wrap up. Mike, what do you feel on this, dude? Do you think it's going to be exclusive? Do you care about an Indiana Jones game?
So the thing that most intrigues me with this, as far as the exclusivity factor, I really don't care either way if it's exclusive or not. I do have a hunch that it is going to be at least a timed exclusive on Xbox at the very least. I think they would really want that ace up their sleeve, especially with a big IP like Indiana Jones. I think the thing that I'm most curious about is what style of game it's going to be. You know, I've seen some commentary on social media. Well, maybe this will be Xbox's version of Uncharted, and I think that would be the obvious direction to go. But then you risk looking like then it risks looking like a copycat game, even though Uncharted is technically a copycat of Indiana Jones. That's a different conversation. But is it going to be a first-person game? Possibly. That's where Machine Games traditionally has their experience recently. But is Indiana Jones going to work as a first-person game?
I think having Indiana Jones as a first-person game is a terrible idea because you want people to look at your iconic lead character.
Right.
In the same way, like if having Lara Croft as a first-person game would be a bad idea.
So I really don't know what kind of direction they're going to take it. Is it going to be an open world game or is it going to be more of a linear type of game? I'm really interested to see what they do with this IP. Obviously, Machine Games is an excellent developer, and I'm excited to see what they do. I believe that the game is still a ways off at the moment. Realistically, it's probably not coming out until late 2022, possibly early 2023 at the earliest. I mean, let's be realistic. But I do think there is going to be a short timed exclusivity window at the very least.
Well, I think you're being very generous about that release window. Um, I think with them, they're probably not linked to like 2023, 2024, because they're probably just starting it. I just think it's pretty much that. I know for me personally, I think that I'm excited for it. I think it'll probably go more Metroidvania third person personally. But yeah, I'm excited for the game just 'cause I like the franchise in general, and I like everything Bethesda at this point, so I think that's fairly obvious. But yeah, James, where do you sit on this?
Indiana Jones game. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. It seems like an maker. They just got to make it good. And how do they make it? I would like it to be. I think at the end of the day, you're going to have to make it go down the Uncharted route. In the same way that, like, when people talk about making the Uncharted movie, like the trouble that the directors have, the many directors that were attached, they all end up saying it just ended up feeling like Indiana Jones. maybe that's not a bad thing. Just don't make it about loads of climbing. I think maybe have less shooting, and when you do the shooting, make it more impactful, like you do in the movies. I think having more puzzles and more like actual searching, where it isn't just everything just highlighted in yellow, make it actually feel like you're finding something. Because we as gamers, we love exploring things and finding secrets behind that aren't marked on the map. That stuff's great. If you make that like the core of that game, or like the big moments, make it feel like you, the player, earned it, that would be great. I think that would be the way to go for it for me.
Sam?
Yeah, so to be blunt, I think it's too early to discuss whether it's exclusive or not. I think it's a 50-50 chance. The fact is, maybe this deal was made with Microsoft's knowledge, like after they said, hey, we intend to acquire these people. We're working on it right now. It'll finish next year. Maybe this deal was in the works for a while, and that's the exact meaning of when Phil Spencer said, oh, case-by-case basis. Because, yeah, they intend to make most of these games exclusive, but he knows there's a pre-existing agreement. I think that's also possible. And then who knows? Maybe there's a pre-existing agreement and then Microsoft just decides to buy him out. Like, that's also very possible. So it's just too early on the exclusivity thing. In terms of it happening, hell yes. This is not something I saw coming by any stretch of the imagination. No one did. There was no leaks or rumors, but I'm all for it. And the fact that Todd Howard is going to be, the executive producer on this, but Machine Nazi-killing games are the ones who are making the game, absolutely. This is pretty cool. I will say I agree with Ivan. Mike, you're being way too generous with 2022. That game is late 2023 at the earliest, probably even a little farther out than that. Like, this is we're working on the game, we're announcing it so you'll come join our team type thing. Like, we will see Wolfenstein 3 announced and released before this game release.
Oh, most likely. But yeah, I mean, I agree with one thing James did mention. I do agree with is if they want to make this one stand out, they do have to make it so there's less shooting and more adventure. That being the main focus, even more than Uncharted 2. And a lot of people complain about the shooting stuff as opposed to like the shooting. Shooting came more prominent in 3. I think they have to do that.
Yeah.
I think they really have to make it more of a focus on that. The other part about that too is they have to allow it so each encounter with enemies feels fluid, but not so much the actual fight itself. I think it needs to be more rely on environmental.
I really don't want there to be a boss fight against a truck.
And
yeah, Uncharted kind of has us covered.
Nathan Drake's greatest enemy, trucks.
For real. But no, I agree with you. I think that maybe you can have a mounted turret section, of course, scripted moments where you have to go for a gun. But I think in general they need to focus on melee and whip combat with maybe a revolver that you can carry limited ammunition as an emergency weapon. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You see where I'm going, where it's you have a few bullets and you can just instantly kill a guy, but you might have needed that later on, and bullets are going to be rare and hard to come by, and mainly you're going to be using, your fist and your whip. Maybe a knife.
Or maybe you can make the enemies not have guns, like Indy goes into a temple, takes out a staff, and accidentally brings back a horde of skeletons. There you go, melee combat.
Yeah, it's mainly just finding reasons why guns are not super necessary.
Right. And I do think it's interesting that in the teaser trailer, that in the little 20-second teaser that Bethesda posted, it seems like it's going to be taking place, or at least part of it will be taking place in the Vatican in Italy in 1937, based on the passports and the maps and files that are on the desk.
Give me a stealth mission where he's trying to get into the secret archives of the Vatican. I want it.
Please,
I want it now.
Please. Yes. I'm with you.
So we're gonna wrap up the show here. I know we're trying to keep it to our 1 hour timeline as we normally do, but it's more of an intro episode to get you guys back into the groove of things for people watching and watching online as well. So, real quick, we'll do our outros here. James, where can the people find you, sir?
The good people and the bad people and everyone in between can find me on tweets at James_S Wilson. Pitch me another famous property and see if I can fit it into the land of WWE. Maybe we can make this a recurring segment. Yeah, and ask me about music, ask me about movies, all that good stuff.
All right, and Sam.
Are you guys here? Oh, there you go. Okay, there was the long.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was we were
Yeah,
pausing or someone's gonna step
A
in or
little
what.
bit of internet stutter. It's like, yeah. So this has been a good show. Good to be back with you guys. I'm Sam. Come follow me at Samuel Talbert on Twitter. That's TOLBERT. And looking forward to next week.
And Mike.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in for another great episode of the Multiverse Show. It feels great to be back. You can catch me on Twitter at The Truth of Mike P, Xbox at Mike P The Truth, and you can find what I write on Level 1 Gaming at lv1gaming.com.
All right, and I'm Anchorman V2, host of the Multiverse Show, and thank you guys for tuning in. It's a good stream. We'll see you guys next time on the other side of the multiverse.